Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. The Dream Team. We are here live from Los Angeles on Undisputed. I'm Jason McIntyre. We got Greg Jennings in the building, Chris Broussard, Rob Parker. Gentlemen, they love us on social media. They love us.
That's the standard?
Crickets? Is that where we're at?
Right. Social media?
Yeah,
okay.
I think we love each other. And everybody at FS1, they love it when we fill in.
We do love each other.
No doubt.
People can get the wrong impression because we go at it.
Because this is what sports debate is. I mean, really, right? Aren't you passionate about it, Greg?
100%.
We're all passionate.
I do feel bad when we gang up on you, Parker, a little bit.
Right. I'm used
You're
to
just
it.
happy
all
we're
good.
not ganging up on you.
It's coming to me today.
It's usually you.
Today's my day. We got a ton
Exactly.
today, folks. Did James Harden and Russell Westbrook's kind of big night prove they're ready to compete for a championship? And Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, are they the new Brady-Manning rivalry in the AFC? But we're going to start with the 76ers, Broussard's team. Man, they looked good last night. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid combined for 52 on their way to a 7-point win over the Clippers. Philly's now won 3 in a row, woo! And has the best home record in the league, 25-2. This comes after a rough stretch of criticism from Barkley and Shaq, bunch of off-season trade rumors, Embiid kind of embracing his villain role on Instagram. You know, Kawhi Leonard did play last night, so did Paul George. But we're going to start with the 76ers, Broussard. This game show you anything about maybe we're too premature on breaking up Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid?
What last night showed me is that the talk of the Sixers' demise and of breaking them up is just what the doctor ordered. And I mean that because Joel Embiid is certainly hearing the talk about he might get traded in the offseason. He certainly heard the boos. It was the third straight game that he's been booed in Philadelphia, okay? Ben Simmons is hearing the talk. You mentioned Charles and Shaq. He's hearing the talk. Should he have been an all-star? You know, that Trae Young and John Morant have now become the hot young point guards over him. He's hearing all of that too. And maybe, just maybe, they are beginning to wake up. Because, Rob, you've covered the NBA and other sports a long time. When young stars enter the league, or young players that could be stars, their first priority is establish myself as an individual star. It's over winning. Their priority is establish myself as a star individually, maybe make some all-star teams so that in a few years, when it's time for that max contract, I can get it. They're not that concerned about winning. And to be honest, we kind of let them go. You know, you lose your first few years. We don't expect you to win much. We get it, okay? But then, after you're a few years in the league, okay, you've been an all-star. You got your max deal. Now, when it's not equating to winning, when you're not playing up to your potential, either as an individual or a team, people begin to take a little bit of that respect away from you. I've seen it happen with players time and time again, and you can see it happening with guys now. Karl Anthony Towns. A few years ago, he would always be the player that GMs would start their team with, Karl Anthony Towns. Not so much anymore because they're not winning. Bradley Beal didn't make the All-Star team. Devin Booker's upset, didn't make the All-Star team. We're at the point, okay, guys, we see the numbers. Start winning. And maybe now Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are beginning to get it and understand all the all-star berths and the money, and we are celebrities. That's not going to get us the respect we want as basketball players. So I think perhaps, I'm not going there yet, but look, they won 3 straight. They beat Chicago, okay. But they beat Memphis at home, which is a pretty good team. And yesterday, obviously a good win, double figures over Boston. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, arguably, Brett Brown, the coach, even said this, that may have been their best game together since he's been coaching the team.
Chris, this is all at home, where they dominate.
Right.
25-2, best record in the league. Rob Parker.
That's where we'll find out is if they've really woken up.
Yeah, the 76ers have the same road record as the New York Knicks.
And there you go.
Awful.
There's the telltale sign right there. And I'm out on this pairing and these guys, and I know they're not going to do anything now, obviously, but as you go forward, everybody told everybody, trust the process. The Sixers were bad for a long time. They got 2 really good players, 2 stars, which we all like. We like them individually. Sometimes they just don't go together. And when you take a look at it, you probably need to move one of these guys because they both need the paint to operate, right? Simmons really can't shoot from the perimeter, so he's only really effective when he's there. Embiid has to go outside and shoot from there because there's no room in the paint because Simmons is there.
Simmons did have a triple-double last night, guarded a lot by Paul George.
I'm not saying that he's not a good player, but I'm just saying as far as matching those 2 guys together, and I get it, it's hard to give up star talent, even if they don't really go together because they have had success. We know it took the Kawhi shot in Game 7 to beat them, right? What if that doesn't go in, they win, and they move forward, then you're talking, have a different conversation. All the talk has been about Brett Brown. Oh, he's not the right coach. It's been everybody. They went and got Al Horford. He got benched, right? He was supposed to be the missing piece to put this all together. He's that quiet veteran guy who works with everybody. It hasn't worked. And their road record is indicative and tells you a lot about this team. You're not supposed to be 25-2 on the road, but you need to be 500 if you're a really good team and you're going to make that move, Greg. So if it was up to me, say they get knocked out in the first round or don't have a good showing in the second round, I'm ready to go the other way, break them up, see if I can bring in a player who's more compatible for the guy that I decide to keep.
Yeah, I'm with you, Rob. I don't think that it's premature because in the regular season, anyone can put together these spurts or this type of showing. Specifically at home, we see how well they play at home. But last night is what frustrates Sixers fans about this team. They show up and play really well against arguably one of the elite teams in the NBA. And they have a great showing across the board. Bench guys, everyone pours in and does their thing. Embiid chooses to play, and he chooses to play big, and he chooses to go down in the paint and dominate and give us this versatility of more dominant showing in the paint and then less on the perimeter when needed. And then Ben Simmons does his thing. He gets out in the open court, and he pushes the tempo, specifically when Embiid is out on the bench, and they can run with the best of them. This is what frustrates you about this team. They don't do it consistently every night. And at the 5th seed, where they are right now, they are going to have to prove to take this showing of what we saw last night on the road. Because you're saying, you know what, we're not going to play like this every single night to get the 1 seed or 2 seed or somewhere to where a team is going to have to come to us in 7 games. We're going to have to show that we can do this on the road. And you talk about Brett Brown, we often like to make sure that or put it on somebody else.
Right.
It's always a finger-pointing contest. And Brett Brown last night, it shows you that it's not just him. It's a choice with these players. Are you going to play every single night the way that you do at home, on the road? We talk about their road record being poor. Like, it's an effort deal. And Embiid gets criticized by Shaq, by Barkley, all these bigs, all these guys who understand what it takes and how it looks to compete night in and night out. And you alluded to this subtly. Maybe all the grumblings about potentially being the one that's out is going to register and going to make sure that he starts to play this way every single night.
We do forget, Greg, if they were to face an Indiana in the first round, even if they don't have home court advantage, who are the 2 best players on the floor? Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Better than anyone on Indiana.
When they choose to be.
Even if they play Toronto. I know Pascal Siakam's been good. The 2 best players on the court are on the Sixers.
Arguably.
But it's not always just the best players who win.
That's
the
a great
team,
point.
it's
Right.
the best team.
And that's why
and you get contributions from other people.
That's why I believe they don't play through Embiid. They play through Simmons. Embiid, 28 minutes last night. Ben Simmons, 43 minutes.
Only 28 because he was in foul trouble.
Right, but 22 shots for Ben Simmons. He ran the offense. You go look up the highlights in the half court. Ben Simmons could not be guarded by Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, Paul George. He took him to school. 26, 12, and 10. I'm telling you, they run this offense through Simmons. And I know you don't want Embiid to sit on the perimeter. I think that's their best offense. Now, Al Horford.
Not with him on the perimeter.
I mean, again,
he
can
might
make
as well
threes.
be 6'5".
Well, not exclusively
Why are you
on the
wasting
perimeter.
the height?
He's not exclusively on the perimeter, but again, you can't clog the lanes. Then Ben Simmons is useless.
Then he's useless.
Who's the better passer? Ben Simmons,
Ben
obviously.
Simmons is the better passer, but look, Embiid is nice that he can step out every once in a while and hit a three. Keep the defense honest. But if he's going to be almost exclusively on the perimeter, last night he was in the paint. As Greg said, 4 of his 8 shots came from within 4 feet of the rim.
That works.
He got to the line 13 times. That shows you he was down low. He wasn't sitting on the perimeter just shooting three-pointers. That's what I like. So you brought up the 2 best players on the team, on the court. A lot of times, they're starting 5, well, not starting 5, but I'd say talent-wise. They have the most talent in the Eastern
They've got more talent than Milwaukee. We agree with that.
I believe they got more. No,
right.
but they could be. This is why I picked them in the preseason to represent the East in the finals, because potentially they could be great. And I think it's perfect because, look, I'm with you, Rob. We let this regular season play out. If they go out in the first or second round or get smashed in the conference finals, then I'm moving on probably from Embiid.
But I was going to say, is it Embiid? Is it Embiid you would trade, Chris?
If they play tough in the conference finals, even if they lose, then I would give it another year. But if I had to move one, I would move Embiid because of the health concerns. And I just think today's NBA, Ben Simmons can be like a point center. Yeah. You could play him down.
He's tall enough.
This is why you're looking to. We just talked about all the talent. Why wouldn't you first move on from Brett Brown, try another coach,
that's another option.
And keep these 2 together for one more year? How often are you going to get 2 of the 10, 15 best players in the league on the same roster? That doesn't happen every night.
But it's
you can't
still
just
about
break
a
that
fit,
up.
though.
That's a good option.
Too early.
It is about a fit. It's just like what we talked about the other day with the Cleveland Browns, and you were quick to say, get rid of OBJ.
Wow.
You have all this talent. When you look at this team, they work well inconsistently. And it's not that they don't fit. Like, they do fit when they want to. And a lot of it is choice of player and how you choose to
But if the coach can't, shouldn't he be able to get his foot in your backside and make you play?
Not in this
Remember, they lost on a shot last year.
Some guys have figured out how to do it.
For me, when it comes to Brett Brown, it's about pushing the correct button at the right time. Last night, everything worked. You had Embiid going inside, but again, it's a decision from all parties involved. You have to make sure that, look, Embiid, are you locked in tonight?
Right.
Ben, are you locked in tonight? With stars, I shouldn't have to be on them about whether or not they're going to choose to play every single night. And Embiid, with him being so physically demanding of the ball, there was a play last night. He ran down the court, literally pinned Zubac down low, and he got the foul. Didn't get the bucket, but he got the crowd went crazy. That shouldn't be the case. They shouldn't have to go crazy about that. That should be the norm.
Every single time. Greg, it's February. It's 82 games. It's tough for these guys.
I don't want to
still
hear
doesn't
that.
play back-to-backs.
But they're not doing it
in the postseason.
Yeah, they're not doing it consistently at all. Look, I'll say this. You talk about home record. They need to get in the top 4 in the East, and they obviously are capable of doing that. They have beaten the top 4 teams in each conference at home. They've beaten all of them, the Lakers, the Clippers, Utah, Denver. All of them have gone down in Philadelphia, but their road record is the worst of any playoff.
We're talking about stars. It seems like a good pivot point. The L.A. Clippers happened to lose last night. I know Rob Parker wants to spend 10 minutes frying them the way he would the Lakers if they lost. I want to get the Clippers started with this, guys. I look at Paul George last night, and he looked kind of uncertain, like a star like, what am I? Am I the number 2 to Kawhi? I was a great number 1 in Indy. I was a shaky number 2 to Russell Westbrook. We couldn't get out of the first round. Paul George, 3 for 15. And I started reading the newspaper reports last night. Paul George struggles again. And nobody's ever going to blame Kawhi. You guys know that. Paul George, 3 for 15. He's going to be the guy who gets blamed. Any concern about the Clippers, Rob Parker? No. After a loss on the road,
you just told us that they're 25-2. That's a tough game on the road against Philadelphia. Okay. And they didn't get blown out, run out the gym.
In the fourth quarter, they did.
But they competed all the way through. They were down early. I watched the whole game. Down early, they made a comeback. They got back into the game, and they lost in the fourth. I'm not going to sit here and be all, oh my God, they lost to Philadelphia in Philly. And, Paul George, that's a bad shooting night. And he's going to have those, but I've also seen the really good shooting night.
Yes.
So I'm not
Let me
I'm not
ask
gonna
you a
sit
second
here,
layer on Paul George.
I'm not going to sit here and make it like, oh, my God, Paul George is the weakest link. And,
Maybe
and
the
he's not
stats.
going to be able to do it.
Paul George is shooting 42% from the field, the worst he's had in 5 years. He's getting to the free throw line, the fewest since before his injury in Indiana. Paul George is not the same player he was several years ago. No, you're telling me still no concern about Paul George as the number 2 to Kawhi?
Here's what I say about Paul George. He is the number 2, and I think he knows it.
Okay.
Kawhi is the number 1 guy. Paul George had statistically arguably his best year last year.
Indeed.
Next to Westbrook. Now, they didn't get out of the first round.
But it wasn't because he didn't play well.
It wasn't that he didn't play well. I think the numbers you're quoting, I think he is the same player. Defensively, I think he's great. And it's just he's in and out of the lineup. That's what it is. And I think you're going to see some of these, even as the Clippers are winning, they're not playing as smoothly as they could because guys are in and out of the lineup. But the fact that they're still right there 3.5 games behind the Lakers.
Four back.
4 back behind the Lakers with these guys in and out of the lineup is a good sign. And here's the other thing. I don't agree with this, but a scout told me before the season started, the reason the Clippers are favored and to win the championship, he said it's Pat Beverly. Now, I don't agree with that.
Right.
But that shows you the importance of Pat Beverly. And any guy who played basketball, any relatively high level, when you got a little dog on
Yes.
you, right?
You love it.
Tenacious.
Pestering
You hate that.
You do.
You hate that. Don't belittle that. They are 30-10 with Pat Beverly in the lineup. He didn't play last night. They're 7-7 when he doesn't play. So I'm not saying he's their MVP.
No, I know what you mean, but he's an important factor.
But yes, they're a team, and any one part that's missing can throw them off a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the Clippers. The Clippers have depth from start to finish. And when you talk about Paul George, I think the concern there, there is no concern there. I think the issue is you have a guy like Kawhi Leonard who's going to handle the ball, who's going to be the focal point, and rightfully so.
He played well last night.
He played really well. And then when you exit Kawhi Leonard, you bring in a guy like Lou Williams off the bench, who then can run pick and roll with Harrell. Right. And so he's trying to find a way of where he can insert himself and be aggressive, but he's not going to force it. That's why you love Paul George, because he's not going to force the issue. He knows, and he has enough confidence in his own ability in game to say, I'll sit back, and when it's my turn to go, it's going to be my turn to go. And that's what you want in superstars. You tell me when they get in a series, a dogfight, Paul George plays like this, then we have an issue. Until then, there's no problem.
And then we were talking about it, the difference between Philadelphia. To me, these guys with the Clippers are fit. If you really look at them, they all go together. And it's not about this guy has to be the leading scorer, that guy. There will be nights, like you just said. And I love the way it's put together, and I think Paul George fits with it.
And another point, last night, Marcus Morris is just getting to the team. He took a few shots. They want to get him involved, get him acclimated on both ends of the court, specifically offensively.
He also got into a scrap, which he won over teammates as well.
That's what
He challenged the biggest guy on the floor
in the league.
That's what they
and
need.
his teammates are like, this is our guy.
Because they are undersized. And we saw last night what hurt them is the size of Embiid. Right. Getting inside, beating them up on the boards. They couldn't handle them inside. And when I look at the Lakers, the one thing that they have is size. And if AD can do what Embiid was able to do last night, they're going to have
That's a great point. That's a great point, because we said that's the Lakers' road to beating the Clippers.
Yes.
Is you can't match them on the perimeter. But inside, they can't match you. So just like Embiid exposed them, AD needs to expose.
Yeah, Anthony Davis can get to the line if he doesn't fade away. For some reason, you see Embiid go up strong inside, get to the line 13 times. Anthony Davis had a tendency to fade away. But you mentioned Marcus Morris. Is it too strong to call him a bit of a goon. He went off last night on Embiid over like
use
nothing.
goon. I think
he's like
because goons don't shoot 44%.
Right, goons can't shoot.
I'm just saying
can't play.
Season. He's never shot this long.
Yeah,
but 37%.
But he was shooting 37%. First of all, is good
it's
too.
It's not bad. Yeah,
from three. It's beyond not bad for a four-man. But he was taking 6 attempts a game in New York.
Yeah.
So that's
down a lot.
No, 6-3. But my point is, the more you shoot, usually the lower the percentage is.
Very true.
So that's a big sample size.
It
so
ain't like he's only taking 2 or 3 threes a game and he has a good percentage.
Well,
Absolutely.
You got to understand, he has to know his role. He knows his role on this team.
This ain't the Knicks.
No, this is not the Knicks.
This ain't the Knicks when they're not going nowhere, right?
He's not going to have the ball in his hand predominantly a lot of the time. He's going to have to be physical, impose his will on the defensive end, get into those altercations because they need him to do that, be that guy. That's period.
We had Brad Turner from the LA Times, Lakers reporter, on our show last night, The Odd Couple. He said that as tough as Patrick Beverley is, he thinks Marcus Morris is tougher.
Really?
Yeah, that was surprising. Go ahead.
Lakers need to send in Jared Dudley then and commit some hard fouls and goon it up. My guy, Jared Dudley. That's what Marcus Morris does. He gets thrown out of a preseason game. Look at the history of fighting on and off the court. I don't know. If he goes after LeBron or Anthony Davis in the playoffs, NBA's going to have to do
It's
something.
not about
this is
fight.
what he
No,
does.
he's not going to fight anybody. But it's nice to have a guy like that.
That who's
Dennis
not gonna
Rodman.
back down.
He's not going to
You
back
need
down.
somebody
It's
to
just
back
about
you
not
up.
backing down. That's all it is. It's not
Can we just
fighting.
fast forward to that series?
No mercy.
James Harden and Russell Westbrook went off against the Celtics last night. The Houston duo combined for 78 points in an 11-point win over the Celtics. After the game, James Harden said when he and Westbrook get hot, it's, quote, pretty scary. Question I want to get to is, guys, did the Rockets prove anything with a win over the Celtics? We know they're, 2-2 since the trade. The loss to Phoenix, they didn't have Westbrook. Broussard, when I look at this Rockets team, yeah, they're deadly for maybe a round if they get hot. But the Jazz, a couple games ago, gave the blueprint that the Celtics didn't follow. You put your center, Rudy Gobert in that case, on Russell Westbrook and say, hey, Russ, take all the threes you want. And Russ, since the trade, has only attempted 6 3-pointers in 3 games. If you look at the month of December, he averaged 6 a game. So basically, the lane is open now with Capella gone. Westbrook just driving in, getting layups. Celtics could not stop that. But I think the smart teams will be able to shut down the Rockets,
Well, first of all, you don't get much smarter than the Celtics.
Yeah, you would think so.
I mean, they're a smart team. And Utah, I don't know how much of a blueprint it was because it took a buzzer-beating shot from Bogdanović over 2 Rockets to win that game. So I thought the Jazz played well. And Westbrook put up numbers against Utah. So, look, here's what I think. That the Rockets got better with the trade. Now, they still are behind the 2 LA teams, in my view, the Clippers and the Lakers, but I think they're closer to being the 3rd best team in the West now than they were before the trade. Okay, because the fact is they've opened up the lane for the first time in Russell Westbrook's career, and he is killing because of that. He's averaging 38 points a game on 57% shooting since the trade, or in the last 3 games, because the lane is wide open. Even in OKC, it wasn't wide open because you had Steven Adams there. And that has made them less James Harden-centric, which is great. Before, it was James Harden a clear number 1 and Russ a clear number 2. Russ had to kind of get in where he fit in and get yours when you can. Now, it really looks like a partnership. When they double team James Harden, they make you pay now because he swings it and Westbrook can go right to the lane. If you collapse on him, he can kick it out. So I think they've improved. Now, you mentioned 2-2 since the trade. They're actually 5-2 since Capella, they played small ball because Capella got hurt with the plantar fasciitis and they've had to play their last 7 games small ball, okay? They're 5-2 in those games, 4-1 when Westbrook is played because he sat out 2 games. The teams they beaten, Dallas, New Orleans.
No Luka, right?
Right, no Luka, but Dallas has played well without Luka. New Orleans, who's, you love New Orleans.
Well, we'll get to him later.
The Lakers, and then, of course, last night's win. So, Boston, they are playing good basketball. Again, I'm not getting ahead of myself and thinking they're better than the Lakers or the Clippers. However, I do think they've got a much better chance of beating Utah, Denver, and being that 3rd team in the West.
I credit Mike D'Antoni, and I think they have gotten better. when you look at a coach and you say, okay, do your job. What is your job? Identify what makes us better as a team. And he's done exactly that. Chris, you hit it on the head. He removed and unclogging the lane, saying my two best players are top 15 in free throw attempts. That means they need to get to the rack. They want to get to the rack. James Harden is number 1 in the NBA in getting to the free throw line. So when you say that, as many threes as he shoots, he wants to get you in foul trouble. He wants to get to the lane, get and ones. And Russell Westbrook, we understand that's who he's always been. And so when you look at D'Antoni, you say, man, this is a great move by D'Antoni. Did we get better? Of course. Why? Because we've allowed now our 2 primary best players to be who they are. Not try to alter their game and keep Westbrook on the perimeter and be a spot-up shooter. That's not who he is. That's not who he wants to be, and he does not thrive in that role. Where Russell Westbrook thrives is when you spread the court, you give him shooters, and you let him get to the rack. And you let him take his elbow jump shots that he consistently knocks down, and you let James Harden just be special. I like this, and they don't even have one of their elite scorers in Eric Gordon. Mm-hmm. He's out, and we don't know how long he's going to be out. So when you get him back, you add another lethal shooter and a guy who can still get to the rack. I like what they've done. They've identified. It doesn't mean that they're going to be up there with the Clippers and the Lakers, but they've identified what makes them a better team. And they're going to run with this. I like it.
I don't like it. And before we give Mike D'Antoni a parade, he's done this before with players. People have excelled under his system. Am I right?
Yes. He made Steve Nash a Hall of Fame.
Steve Nash won 2 MVPs playing for him. So this is what he does, and I'll give you that. That's fine. But when it comes down to...
I'll take those 2 MVPs.
Okay, you can take it. I bet you if you ask Steve Nash, would he rather have a championship, 1 championship, he'd probably give up both of them.
Maybe.
He'd probably give up both of them.
He's going down in...
But my only problem is we've seen this movie before, and they're no closer to... You guys have both acknowledged they're no closer to doing what they want to do, which is win a championship, okay? So you can win all the regular season games, you can score all the points. I'm not knocking it. I just don't know if you're any closer that when you get to the most important games in the postseason, is this going to work against the Clippers and against the Lakers? That's if I'm a GM, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to win a championship, and I'm trying to how do I get closer to those 2 guys, not beating Denver and not beating Portland and not beating those teams. And Utah, that's nice in the second round, but I'm going to eventually get there, and I can't beat the Clippers, and I can't beat the Lakers playing that ball.
And Rob,
that's it.
you know historically what has happened to James Harden in the postseason.
Yes.
He's melted down. That's what he does. Spurs.
Well, he was
Look
big.
at the series 2 years ago against the Warriors. Shot 41% and 26 in threes 2 years ago.
And you remember
Last year he fought with his teammate Chris Paul. And
but you remember when they lost, they missed 27 threes in a row.
Like, what
That's how they win.
Let's not forget about last year. Last 3 years, Russell Westbrook hasn't gotten out of the first round. I'm telling you, this will look good for a couple games, but wait for this, Rob Parker. Guess who's averaging 28 shots since the trade? Russell Westbrook. James Harden, only 17. How's James Harden going to handle? Wait a minute, this is Russ's team now? He's getting all the shots? He's getting the shot? I can't wait for it. This is going to be an epic meltdown when the Rockets start feuding in the locker room.
That average is based on him taking 10 shots against the Lakers. The last few games, Harden's gotten back to being himself.
It's a small sample size.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting his shots. They've been double teaming him too, and he is a good passer and facilitator.
The ball, right.
They're not going to feud. If they were going to feud, it would have been early in the season when Westbrook's like, I'm a spot-up shooter?
Right.
This is really what it's about? But they've known each other since they were kids, so they're good friends. They're not going to feud. And now, like I said, it's more of a comfort level. Now Russ is like, this is as much my offense as it is Harden.
I agree with that part, Chris.
So I don't – look, but Rob is right. In a macro sense, no. 2 years ago, even last year, you were closer to winning the championship than you are now. But what they could do at the deadline to get better, that's what Greg and I are saying. All they could do is what they can do now. I don't think they should have gave up Chris for Russ, even though Russ is a better player probably.
But you're talking about fit-wise,
But just
right?
fit-wise, yeah. So they decided to go small. I think it makes them a little better. I think it does give them more of a puncher's chance against the Lakers.
Against the Lakers.
Right.
And that, for me, is where I feel like they got better. Because the Clippers, I don't think you pull that card, you're not going to beat the Clippers. Because they can go small with you, and they can still be bigger and out-physical you and pretty much beat you up on the perimeter. Where the Lakers, you can go small and stretch them out and then possibly have that shooter's chance, puncher's chance, however you want to look at it, and beat them because they tend to not go and use their size.
So if it was a second-round matchup and it's Houston and the Lakers, would you would think that the Lakers could lose that?
There's a potential that they could.
You still would pick the Lakers.
I think you pick Lakers, but they could make it a tough 6 or maybe 7.
They could. And it has a lot to do with the fact that when you look at the Clippers, you look at the Rockets, like they have defenders too. You got Robert Covington who can stretch the floor
he's been great.
And he can shoot, but he can also defend, a big wing. Like you have guys that can play both ways and get production on both ends of the court, specifically defensively. PJ Tucker, who again, a very physical guy who can wear down guys like LeBron James in the postseason, give them big minutes and switch off. I don't like them against the Lakers, but I like their chances better against the Lakers and the Clippers.
You said P.J. Tucker. He's 34 years old. He's 6'5", and he's playing center. He's playing the most minutes per game in his entire career.
You tell that.
You're telling me P.J. Tucker?
You tell that to P.J. Tucker in his heart.
You think can he handle Anthony Davis in the post?
I'm not saying he can in the post. No, absolutely
but
not.
AD don't live in the post.
Thank you.
He will in that series?
He visits occasionally.
That's what we was on a perimeter.
Wait, so
he visits
Anthony
sometimes.
Davis. Wait, just to be clear,
I want him to live in the post, or at least be more of a resident than he is at this point.
Anthony Davis could be a problem for the Clippers, right? That's what we've saying because of the size.
Well, depending on where he's playing.
Hold on, J-Mac, don't take Greg or any of us out of context. We would pick the Lakers.
No, what I'm saying is I think the Rockets match up better with the Clippers because there's no major threat inside to score on them at will the way Anthony Davis would. I think they match up better with the Clippers because they can hang with them on the wings.
No, they can't. I don't think they can hang with the Clippers on the wings because the Clippers defender, they as Greg said, they can go small, but they'll be a little bigger than you.
Yes,
and physical, they're more physical than you. Yeah, I think they match up better with the Lakers.
No mercy. All right, let's pivot to the NFL. Patrick Mahomes has taken the league by storm since becoming the youngest player ever to win a regular season and Super Bowl MVP. When asked if he viewed himself as the new face of the NFL, Mahomes gave credit to Lamar Jackson being on the same level after winning the unanimous MVP award this year. Mahomes only 24, Lamar only 23, so we can expect a lot of exciting matchups down the road between these two. So, Rob, is Mahomes Lamar the next Brady-Manning rivalry in the NFC?
Say it.
No way. No how. Not yet, at least. And I can see why people are excited about it with these guys, right? They're young. They're dynamic. We saw Lamar have his breakout year, his first year. What did they win? 6 out of 7 before they got into the playoffs. But obviously Lamar hasn't won a playoff game yet. And Mahomes has already won a Super Bowl. This could... But I don't think we're there yet. And the other part of this is there's another guy who's also in the mix, and Deshaun Watson, who we kind of like poo-poo and act like he's not around, but he's going to be around as well. And I'm not sure. It might be one of these three, depending on who wins in the playoffs, so I'm not so sure.
One of them.
No.
One of them, definitely.
No. I meant
one of them, there's no question about.
No, Mahomes, I'm saying. He's already won a Super Bowl, but I'm saying it might wind up in the long term being Deshaun and Mahomes.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying, is that it's not automatic, and I got to wait and see until Lamar wins a postseason game. That's all. We haven't seen that yet, and he's come out in both years unbelievably into the, having a hot streak going into the playoffs, and right away was buzzsawed out of the playoffs. Right. So I just think you have to win some playoff games and get into the mix before.
So it's a premature talk, right?
Just premature. Yeah. I'm not there yet. I'm not one of those guys. It takes a little while.
You're not
win a couple playoff games, and then I could say, wow. And then who knows, down the road, maybe Lamar is in the way of Pat Mahomes and stopping him from being the guy that Chris has already put into the Pro Football Hall of Fame already.
He might already.
Oh, all right.
I'm just saying, look, Patrick Mahomes is definitely in this conversation.
Oh, he's won a Super Bowl. I don't think that's
and an MVP. I mean,
Right.
this dude's definitely in the conversation. And I do think this fits the Brady, Peyton Manning model perfectly. The only question is this: the sustainability of Lamar Jackson at that style. That's it. Because I don't even think, and I agree with you, he's got to start winning playoff games, but not to be this matchup, because Peyton Manning was 0-3 in his first 3 playoff games and played horribly. Averaged like 186 yards a game, completed fewer than 50% of his passes, and yet it was still Brady Mahomes or Brady Manning. So even if Lamar continues to have these great regular seasons but can't get over the hump in the playoffs, it still could be Manning Brady.
I still think at some point.
As Peyton did. But Peyton was 9-10 in the playoffs in Indianapolis. Okay, now he won the Super Bowl, so we kind of overlooked it. But outside of that year, he didn't do well in the playoffs.
But he won a lot of MVPs. He was a big quarterback out
but that's my point.
Yeah.
Jackson is going to be a beast in the regular season. The question is, can he do it in the playoffs? And from Jackson, if he improves passing-wise as much going into next season as he did last offseason, then that's going to be huge for him, because what I see for him is maybe he can play this way, if he stays healthy, for the next 3-4 years. But over time, as he gets slower, as he takes more hits, he's going to become more of a passing quarterback than a running one. And he has to keep improving at that. So my only question is the sustainability of Lamar Jackson health-wise.
The answer is no. I'm with Rob on this. The answer is no. This isn't the new Brady Manning. We would love it to be, but it's not. And the reason why is they're so different when it comes to the way they play and how they get there. What I mean by how they get there,
from Peyton and
Brady to Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, and even Deshaun Watson. You alluded to Deshaun Watson can be thrown into that category. Peyton and Manning matched up 17 times over the course of their career, 5 times in the playoffs. And it was electric every single time. Why? Because the game was in their hands when they had the ball. When you look at this matchup, the game is in Lamar Jackson's hands in the regular season more than it is in the playoffs. Why do I say that? Because right now, his game is tailored to the regular season. He is phenomenal in the regular season. But the way that he plays, teams will be able to eliminate a lot of that in the postseason. So it's not transferable yet. I'm not saying that it won't be, because he continues to improve and evolve. But right now, it would be more so Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. We saw that matchup this past postseason and what they can do throwing the ball and with their legs. That gives me more of a Peyton Manning, Tom Brady matchup versus Lamar Jackson.
Let me just defend Lamar Jackson
Mahomes.
for a second.
No one's bashing him.
Well, I know, but this whole playoff record seems let's just look back at that Tennessee game. Fact, Lamar Jackson had over 500 yards of total offense against Tennessee. Now, I know they were trailing and they came back. He was not awful in that game, guys. He missed
when the game was on the line, he was.
He had over 500 yards.
When they get behind, you're not going to be able to just run the ball.
He's not the reason they lost that game to Tennessee. Let's be clear.
No, he's not.
One pass was a little bit high to Andrews, off his hands, intercepted. They had 2 4th-and-1s. They were unbelievably efficient on 4th-and-1 in the regular season.
They were perfect during the regular season.
2 on 4th-and-1 in that game. So it was these big plays, and they were stopped on both of them. I don't blame Lamar for that. I think Lamar's getting a little bit of a short end of the stick on these 2 playoff losses. And yes, he was bad against the Chargers as a rookie.
The Chargers, Chris, and we talked about that. This was the same thing. In the Chargers game, they fell behind. And remember, he put up the touchdowns and the points at the end.
No, he was bad in
garbage time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it didn't look as bad. But when the game was in the for the taking, he wasn't good, and he was coming off. He had just beat the Chargers like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
He was a rookie. Come on.
Then I'm just saying, and this is to Greg's point in the playoffs.
When we look at these, I'll say these 3 quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes is just more polished than the other 2.
No question.
And there's, I mean, it's a gap right now. Like, electric, exciting, all of those things, yes, Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson have all of those tangibles. But when it comes to winning games, when it counts and being effective, like, Pat Mahomes may not be the runner that they are as far as exciting and intriguing to watch, but he's just as effective when he decides to run.
Andy Reid is the head coach for Patrick Mahomes, and he's better than John Harbaugh, who was on the hot seat 2 years ago, and much better than Bill O'Brien. And I feel bad for Deshaun Watson.
Although Harbaugh's very good.
He is good. He won a Super Bowl. Not taken away.
Which, again, is why if anyone is Brady in this situation, it's Pat Mahomes because of that parent. What you just mentioned.
Because of the coaching.
The coaching and the level of play you get out of your quarterback, it matches very well to Brady and Belichick.
Pat Mahomes is also kind of a combination of Peyton with the huge numbers and then Brady with the wins. Because early in Brady's career, he was just winning. He wasn't putting up these huge numbers. But Lamar, this offseason is huge for Lamar because he made such a jump last season as a passer. His touchdown percentage was 9%. 9% of his passes went for touchdowns. That's the third highest since the NFL-AFL merger. So he was very good as a passer, but he's not there yet. If he can get there next season, then he's dangerous because if he gets behind in the playoffs, then you take a lot away from him.
Because we saw games where he completed 10 passes, 5 for touchdowns.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that would be the number.
I think it's not just a huge offseason for Lamar. It's a huge offseason for Greg Roman. In that offensive scheme and how they want to
go forward?
Yes.
Wait, what do they need? They need to make changes?
No, what I'm saying is you have to understand how teams are going to play you. It's a different game in the postseason. So what you've done, what you've put on tape, what you've showcased all regular season long, yes, you can do those things, but you better have some other wrinkles that are going to make you a step above and a little bit better and kind of unpredictable at times.
It didn't help.
And
Mark Ingram was hurt in the game. I think he had like 7 carries.
I get all of these things. I'm not at all saying that Lamar Jackson wasn't great.
You got every excuse.
I see Rob Parker side-eyeing me. This apologist for Lamar.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson wasn't great, and he has made tremendous amount of strides, and I think that he will continue to do that. Right. But it's more than just Lamar Jackson here. They have to prepare him and give him the best game plan and scheme to be effective in the postseason.
Last thing I'll say, you brought up Deshaun Watson. Like there are other guys. And these young players coming up, Kyler Murray had a good season, even though they didn't win. So will other guys get in the mix? That won't stop these two from being Brady Manning, because even with Brady Manning, you had Brett Favre, you had Aaron Rodgers, you had other Drew Brees, great quarterbacks here and there. But those two had that rivalry. So I do think it can be that.
It can be a rivalry, but Lamar has to jump in the win category before we can get. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it could be a lopsided.
About to say
My guy, Sam Darnold.
Josh
Allen.
Yeah,
you lost me there.
There are guys that can jump in.
No way.
Guys that can jump in.
No mercy.
Zion Williamson, another monster game last night, Chris Broussard. Zion dropped 31, a career high on Portland. Zion had 9 rebounds, 5 assists, just basically dominant. LeBron, KD, and Luka are the only other 19-year-olds ever to have a 31-9-5 game. Zion, he's just averaging 21-8 through 9 games. No big deal. Chris, has Zion Williamson already established himself as a superstar in the NBA?
Look, I like Zion Williamson a lot. Just because I'm not lying down prostrate and worshiping him like some people, don't paint me as a Zion hater. Okay, I like him. I said when he came in the league, he's got a skill set and talents that should make him be able to excel in this league. The floor is wide open now. It's spread. He's got a good first step, can dribble. He can get to the lane and finish for big points. He can post up. There are very few really great post defenders now that are going to be in the paint, a la Patrick Ewing, Shaq, Hakeem Olajuwon, guys like that. So he can score over most guys. He had trouble against Milwaukee because they're one of the few teams that defends the rim so well. But so he's going to put up numbers, as you mentioned, 21-8 so far. But it's 9 games. We have yet to see, and he's playing 27 minutes a game. We have yet to see him play 3 or 4 months of straight basketball at a high level. So I'm not ready to give him the superstar talent. What I will give you is this, J-Mac. He's a guy that, if he stays healthy, he's going to put up big numbers. He's going to be a perennial all-star. He will be a star, okay? And we'll see about superstar. But my question is, as successful as he'll be, and I think he'll be a 25-11 guy. Like, those are big numbers. Can he be your number 1 guy, though, on a championship team? He may be your leading scorer, but if you look at the real number 1s on championship contenders, Steph, Harden, Kawhi, LeBron, Giannis, what do they all have in common? They can dribble the ball up the court and create their own shot off the dribble. I'm not saying be ball dominant, because I love the fact that he's not ball dominant. That fits you in with your teammates better. But those guys, when push comes to shove, give me the rock, they can create from the perimeter. I'm not sure Zion can do that or will be able to do that. Anthony Davis can't do that. Now,
That's
he's
one
a
of the- that's
star,
one of the problems.
but he's a 1A. He's not 1. And so that's my only question. But yes, Zion will put up huge numbers. He'll be an all-star every year. I like him a lot. I'm just saying, will he be that number 1 guy on the title contender?
I got to call a 30-second timeout here, okay? Let's just start with what you just said. Can he be a number 1 like Steph, Giannis, Harden? When those guys were 19, nobody thought they could be a number 1.
That should tell you something.
The NBA.
It's not always the prodigies.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Zion is
It's
doing
not
stuff
always
at
the
19.
prodigies.
Curry was still at Davidson. Giannis was some skinny kid from Greece who nobody knew. Harden was a kind of a non-fat, I mean, 6 man of the year.
My point
I'm saying,
exactly.
Zion's doing stuff none of those guys did. Some of the stats from his first 9 games. First player in the last 30 years to top 20 points in 7 of his first 9 games. Now, I did go to the dictionary, Chris, for the definition of superstar. I went to the dictionary.
That should disqualify
Right, that you need to go there. Go ahead.
Keep me coming. High profile.
Wikipedia? You got some
check,
Wikipedia on there?
High profile, check, and extremely successful. Zion Williamson is both. Now, I know
He's
you're saying
played
it's
9 games. How's he a superstar already?
Well, let's go to high profile. When he was at Duke, the ratings for the regular season
we
games
know he's high
were
profile.
monster.
Nobody will argue. Is anybody argue high profile?
High profile,
we
check.
know that.
We got that. NCAA tournament ratings through the roof.
Did he win a championship
right
in
now,
college?
Here we go.
I'm just
They get to the
asking.
Final Four?
Did he get to the Final
got to
Four?
the
He's
Elite Eight and
he's
lost
such a
to Michigan
superstar,
State.
Greg. Did he get to the championship?
Titles are
Can
nothing.
we let
No,
it marinate
yes.
a little?
But
Can we let
it's-
it bake a little?
Superstar. That's
Already?
the question. He is must-see TV, and superstars are must-see TV, Chris.
You know what
he
he
is
is?
the most electrifying thing in the NBA right now, and here's why. In a year where Klay Thompson's out, Kevin Durant's out, Steph Curry's out, the best thing about the NBA right now is, Zion's on. I got buddies who have season tickets to the Clippers.
I thought it was Trae Young this year.
Stop.
He's a celebrity. He's a celebrity.
Season tickets to Clippers and Lakers. They're telling me that the number 1 ticket that everybody's begging them, hey, let me come to the game, is Zion Williamson and the Pelicans.
You got buddies.
Right now.
That's like
with the
2
season
guys.
tickets. I have multiple guys with season tickets. Trust me, I'm going to a lot of games. I'm telling you, he's a superstar already.
He's a celebrity.
Jason, I think that's where you're missing the boat. Yes. People come in now with much more because of social media, because of all that. They already have a brand and people know who they are way more than years gone by. And even when you said the first guy in 30 years, doesn't mean that it hadn't happened previous to this. Do you know what I mean? You cut it off at 30 years.
Well, that's what the stats were giving out.
I know, but that's why they cut it off there, because
30
there's probably
years.
other.
How
I'm
many
just
games
saying,
is that?
like, it's not like it never happened.
I'll
And I'm
give
with
him credit.
Chris. It's just too premature. We're so quick to crown people as a superstar when he's played less than 10 games. Chris is right. Look, can we see him play some extended minutes? Can we see him play some of the better teams and better players before we're ready to crown him? I don't know what the record of the teams that he's played. Maybe he has played, also ran so far, and he run over them. I'm just saying.
Greg Jennings, please.
We need more time. That's all I need, Greg.
Look, man, Zion is a superstar.
Yes.
He is a superstar. The question isn't is he a superstar, it's can he live up to the superstardom? And right now, with just the 9 games, and I get it, extremely small sample size, but are we disappointed? No. We're not disappointed.
What's your definition of a superstar?
No,
is it his little dictionary?
The dictionary, little dictionary.
A superstar. He's the #1 overall pick, high-profile talent. He has all the following. You talked about the brands, the sponsors. Okay. Everyone is after this guy. He's a hot commodity, a hot ticket. Fans want to see him. Brands want to be connected with him. That's a superstar.
No, you know who else that was? Lonzo Ball!
Oh, yes!
LeVar Ball, for that matter.
Lonzo Ball had all of the same exact thing. Chris is 100%
celebrity.
right. Okay. He was a celebrity.
Give him time to become a superstar.
Okay.
He was, Greg.
Lonzo
Answer that.
I am about to answer
Lonzo was
that.
if that's a superstar.
So listen, so check this out. When Lonzo stepped on the floor, did his game speak that he was superstar?
What records did he break over 30 years?
Did it?
All I'm saying
He didn't do anything.
Nine games.
Okay,
Nine games.
Zion's
Is he playing the next game?
So wait. Let me continue. So we're talking about it's 9 games. That's all we've gotten to see because that's all we've been provided. The season is going to continue to move along. He will continue to play. He's getting better every single time. He's getting more minutes every single night.
Minutes?
So it's a progression. You don't just automatically start averaging 40 points a game. When LeBron James came into this league, was he a superstar?
You know it.
Was he a superstar, Chris?
I would say no. He was a celebrity and he was a star. He averaged 20 points a game as a rookie, which was great, which was phenomenal.
Are you crazy?
He was a celebrity.
He wasn't.
Superstar is your play is on that level. He wasn't one of the best 5 players in the league at his first year.
And neither is.
Why is superstar limited to
no.
5? Superstar could be 10 guys, 15. Zion Williamson, as Greg said, has done more than
At
Lonzo
least
Ball.
LeBron had a full season of production. Zion's got 9 games. All I'm saying is,
I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is, with the 9 games that he has provided us with, he has been really good. He has been. He has lived up to what the expectations are. Guys that aren't superstars that will bud into superstars are guys like Ja Morant. Not kind of off the radar. We kind of know who they are coming out of college, but we haven't quite seen enough of them. And now we're starting to see. Now his sample size has been over the course from start to where we are now, the All-Star break, and he is superstar potential right there.
But Greg, I think you guys are mistaken. High profile compared to superstardom, and that's what you look at because he played at Duke. I get all the other stuff. But superstar, there's a handful of superstars in the NBA.
Define superstar.
Thank you.
It would be a handful of guys. LeBron.
No.
I think what Rob and I are saying is your play has to match your celebrity.
Your profile and your celebrity.
He's a celebrity. My only issue with Zion, it's not even an issue. Let's give it time
to breathe.
It's only been 9 games. You're right. In his 27 minutes, he's made the most of it. He's been great. But I want to see more before I'm going to say that level of play is going, that's what he's going to do. I think he'll put up the huge numbers. But eventually I'm going to be like, let's get some wins.
We've never seen this level of play for someone after 9 games in the last 30 years.
Jason, this is why I'm saying,
I think we have.
Can he live up to the hype of the superstardom?
That's a great question.
Because he is a superstar. And he's proving to us in the 9 games that he's on the court, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do, and this is what I provide every single night.
I don't think you could do that after 9 games,
You
Greg.
don't think Pat?
I don't think so.
You don't even think Pat Mahomes is a superstar.
Come on now.
I'm listening to you,
That's
Rob.
not what I said. I never said that. All I'm telling you is after 9 games, you can't do that. We've done this before. I can remember. With
RG3.
No, not RG3. No.
RG3 was a superstar.
Right, his first year.
ESPN did a 2-day documentary
on him after his first year. In his first year, he was.
And I was going to say, Colin Kaepernick, when Ron Jaworski said that he could be the greatest quarterback who ever played the game after his first couple of years when he was so elusive and all that.
Right.
All I'm saying, it was premature even there, even though Kaepernick got to a Super Bowl and won, 3 NFCs.
That's a good
he was
point.
good. All I'm saying is...
That's the only point he makes all the time,
No,
Rob.
but it's premature, though.
Again,
was that not premature?
I will go back to Pat Mahomes. When we talk about Pat Mahomes, you say it's premature. This is year 2.
For him to be the GOAT is premature.
Come on. Well, listen,
Zion's the go to, right?
Timeout.
Zion's going to pass Michael Jordan. Is that what you're telling me?
Timeout.
Why not? Why not?
Colin Kaepernick was a superstar for 3 years. He was. That's a fact.
That's not what
But
Ron
he didn't live up
Jaworski
to
said.
it.
What did he say?
I don't care about what he said.
No, I'm trying to tell you.
I don't think Kaepernick was a superstar.
You don't think he was a superstar for 3 years,
Nope.
dominating the NFL, getting the 49ers to the Super Bowl?
Nope. I think he was a very good player, and he was a celebrity.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But this is
Kaepernick was not a superstar.
Well, I guess we got a weird definition.
He wasn't
of
like
superstar.
where was he ranking among quarterbacks in that
all time?
Like how? I mean, even in that year, those 3 years, he wasn't like the best quarterback in the league. He wasn't even in the discussion.
Just as Zion's doing right now.
So is Lamar Jackson a superstar?
He had an MVP season.
Is Lamar Jackson a superstar?
No, he's not. They didn't win a playoff game yet.
He wins the MVP award in the NFL, and he's not a superstar. Rob, I just don't get it. Time out. Let's get down here.
I just think Lamar's got to sustain it.
Okay, let's go back to the NBA.
That's
Rob.
my point. That is exactly
But again, Lamar had more of a sample size. He proved it over a whole season. Zion's played 9 games, 27 minutes a night.
I got 2 questions for Rob.
I love what I see.
One,
I'm just saying, can we slow down?
How many games do we need before we put the superstar label on somebody? Is it 20 games? Is it 50?
Can I see his rookie season and see where he is?
No, because you just said Lamar Jackson.
And then you know what he's going to say?
I said Lamar Jackson was the MVP and he had a great season, but I'm not ready to crown him.
You just said, can we see Lamar Jackson? You just said, can we see Zion's rookie season? We've seen Lamar Jackson. We've seen him for 1 year. We've seen him for another year. And you still say, nope, I need to see more.
Superstar. I just don't throw around superstar like you do.
Luka Doncic.
To me, there might be a
I got a
handful of
question
guys.
for you. Can you be a superstar without making the playoffs? Like, consistently.
I think you can.
Whoa. Wait.
As a rookie, can you?
Wait, you're saying can you be a superstar without making the playoffs?
Without consistently making the playoffs.
Consistently different than 1 year.
If Luka was putting up these numbers and they were like 12th in the West, he wouldn't be getting the love he's getting. Part of it's because he's got the Dallas Mavericks in the playoffs. That's what it is. So I think you have to consistently be in those playoffs to be a superstar. Is Karl Anthony Towns a superstar?
He's got numbers.
No,
his numbers are phenomenal.
No, they're no record-setting numbers like Zion's got after 9 games.
You picked one thing, 20 points.
Right,
There's
you
a
just
lot of
made up,
numbers we could look at.
Better than Grant Hill, better than Shaq. It's all out there.
That's just the points. There are other numbers. So he's averaging 7 rebounds a game. Is that phenomenal?
In 27 minutes, if you extrapolate, the advanced stats say per 100
First of all,
possessions,
you don't extrapolate
Zion's numbers
in
are in the
basketball.
upper echelon. He's on a minutes restriction.
Just because a guy averages 10 points in 20 minutes a game doesn't mean he'd average 20 in 40 points a game. You can't do that. There's a reason they're playing 10 minutes, 20 minutes a game.
And even the guys who come up with those stats, they go through, you see it all the time. And they got to go find the number like it's 7 rebounds.
Right.
And it's 5, you know what I mean? To make it fit in. It's like, why did they stop at 7? Why isn't it 20 and 10 and 9 or whatever? Why is it 7? Because that's where he fits in. So you could bring that number to say, nobody's ever had that number in 30 years. It's a phony number.
Jason, I love Zion and
nobody's ripping him.
All we're saying is slow down. It's 9 games. And he got hurt in one of the games.
I'm curious, Greg, what it's going to take. Like, is there going to be a breaking point? He drops 50 or they get to the 8th
Can we get a month?
He's a superstar.
Can he be a player of the month one year, one of these
Player
times?
of the week? How would that qualify?
Something.
I guess the dictionary's not good enough for them, Greg Jennings.
No, it's not good enough for me either, but he's a superstar. He's a superstar in my mind.
Don't quote Wikipedia next segment.
I don't read Wikipedia.
No mercy.
So Michael Irvin just can't stop talking about Dak Prescott. It's just, it's a story that won't die. Tom Brady to Dallas rumors days after Michael Irvin said some people with connections told him the Cowboys would consider moving on from Dak to TB12. Irvin, man, he's been in full control spin mode, saying those comments didn't come from the organization itself, then telling a local Dallas newspaper he's surprised by all the traction the story's gotten. I'm shocked, Irvin said, quote, I'm blown away by this. I said what somebody said. That should no way be taken as those are my thoughts on what should happen. Ain't no way in the world that should happen. That would be insane. Are you kidding me? Are you out of your mind? It's over for Tom. Oh, boy, that's a lot to take in, Rob Parker. Do you agree with Michael Irvin, the playmaker?
First, I'm going to say Michael Irvin has walked this back so far that he's now in Mexico. I mean, where are we going with this? Mike, I get it. They got to you.
That's true. I
mean, really.
I think they said, we're considering moving on from you.
I mean, really.
Favorite legend.
Because I don't believe Michael Irvin is a smart guy in the television business. People listen to what Michael Irvin said. And for him to say now, like he's surprised that it got,
Right.
You're going to dump Dak and bring in Tom Brady. You don't think that's going to get attention, or are people going to be like, what? Michael Irvin?
He said it with a little conviction.
Yeah. Hall of Famer.
Guys have told me significant people.
So I think that it's kind of weird now to hear him back up. I don't know about his whole idea that Brady is, it's over for Brady, Tom. Is that the quote? Does he mean that he should retire? He can't play anymore?
I think that's what he said.
Is that what he's basically saying?
I think it's up for our own assumption.
Right. When you say it's over for Tom is going to be playing in the league. I don't think that even, the idea of moving on, like I said, if you were the Cowboys and you're Jerry Jones and you think I got talent and you have a chance to win, it's not like ridiculous to think that Tom Brady could not come in with the pieces and maybe win something for you if you didn't have confidence in Dak or if you didn't want to sign Dak to a contract. So I don't think it's like totally ridiculous, but I think that the Cowboys were just upset because they know that Tom Brady's not coming there and they don't want to bend the confidence of Dak Prescott. So that's why you have to, get rid of it, let them know up front that, no, we're not believing in this. We don't want Tom Brady. And the same thing with Mike McCarthy when he poo-pooed the whole Tom Brady. You can't talk about a guy you don't have, especially when you have a young quarterback still trying to find his way and trying to get to a place of trying to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
No, go for it.
Look, I agree with you. I think they got in Michael Irvin's ear and was like, look, you not gonna be at games. You're not gonna be in the suite. We'll call the NFL Network, whatever it may be. But I think he's wrong. I think he went too far in saying Brady's done. Now, I don't rule out the possibility that if Tom Brady went to another franchise with a different system, he's 43, he might not have the success that people expect. But in New England, all I see in Tom Brady is at 43, he can no longer carry mediocre talent at the skill positions like he has most of his career outside of Randy Moss and Gronkowski and maybe a couple other guys. So if you put the right skill position players around him, say they went out and got A.J. Green, say they got Greg Olsen at tight end. They were 12-4 last year. I keep saying it. They beat Buffalo, a playoff team, twice. They beat Pittsburgh with Ben Roethlisberger. They beat your Philadelphia Eagles that you love so much. And Dallas, who didn't make the playoffs, was a pretty good team. So they are still a good team. Tom Brady can still be a very productive quarterback in this league. Look, and I'm not saying this because I know you love Aaron Rodgers. Tom Brady threw 24 touchdowns. That's only 2 fewer than Aaron Rodgers. His yards per game was higher than Aaron Rodgers. His QBR was higher than Aaron Rodgers. So if you're saying Tom Brady is completely done, then maybe you're saying that about Aaron Rodgers, which I don't think is the case
We should point out that Brett Favre, Green Bay Packer quarterback, said Tom Brady's good to go. He's okay. Like, this is getting silly, right? We know Tom Brady's fine.
We know he's Tom Brady's going to play in the league.
You know what this reminds me of?
This
reminds me of LeBron last year struggling. Even though Tom Brady went 12-4, LeBron struggling. He's a washed king, and now we got Michael Irvin. Oh, it's over. It's done. They lost in the first round. Like, let's just ease up on Tom Brady. He's fine.
Yeah, Tom Brady, it's not over for Tom Brady. When I listen to Michael Irvin and you hear the reports that he put out there about, Tom Brady possibly being the choice over Dak Prescott and then backpedaling to Mexico, as you put it. It's one of those things where you start to backpedal so far, you start saying things that you don't even believe.
Right. That's how bad it is.
To say that Tom Brady is it's over for Tom Brady, you can't measure the heart of a champion. Like, you just can't. You don't say for a guy like Tom Brady with the accolades and the accomplishments and the things that he's done in this league that it's just over. Now, we can say his play is declining.
And we all agree with that.
And we all agree with that.
We all agree.
I think everybody unanimously agrees with that. But to say it's over, that's saying he can't produce or be effective in any situation. And so I think that's totally absurd. I don't agree with that 1%. And when I look at Tom Brady, you have other people who have done these things where we've said, well, Adrian Peterson,
right.
Oh, he's not going to come. He's not going to be effective. He's done. Look what he's done. He's continued to be consistent. Now, he's not the Adrian Peterson of the Minnesota Vikings, but he still produces. He's still an effective part of that offense.
We saw Peyton Manning win a championship.
Peyton Manning do it.
Right?
We've seen players change helmets, change jerseys, and Tom hasn't done that yet, and still be effective. And so for him to say that it's over for Tom Brady, that's far-fetched.
People were probably saying Ryan Tannehill's done after Miami. He gets to the AFC Championship game with the Titans. It's silly. Michael Irvin, clean it up, buddy.
No mercy.
Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid combined for 52 points last night in a win over the Clippers. The win extends Philly's win streak to 3. And they now are 25-2 at home, best record in the NBA. This comes after a rough stretch of criticism from the likes of Barkley and Shaq, some offseason trade rumors, and Joel Embiid embracing a villain role on social media. Kawhi Leonard did actually play for LA last night, did score 30, but Rick Bucher, we're going to start with the Sixers. Fox Sports NBA analyst Rick Bucher's here. Rick, did this Sixers win prove maybe that we were a little premature? I shouldn't say we. Rob was premature in breaking up Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons.
No, not at all. I mean, look, we can't just take one game and decide that everything has been fixed, especially a game at home. There's nothing wrong with the talent of Joel Embiid. There's nothing wrong with the talent of Ben Simmons. What's wrong is the two of them together. I can go analytics with you.
Thank you.
And tell you that combo from an offensive efficiency standpoint or a defensive efficiency standpoint, it's not their best combo. Not by a stretch. They got 4 or 5 other ones that are more efficient. The other part is this great divide between what they do at home and what they do on the road and the consistency of their play. If they played any semblance of the way they played last night on a regular basis, I'd say give it a ride. Even though from a basketball standpoint, I don't think it fits. Let's see. But they don't give you that consistency because there's a void when it comes to leadership. I'll ask you right now, I ask all of you, who's the leader of this team? Is it Joel Embiid?
He's playing in Miami.
Okay, well, but the bottom line is nobody has grabbed the reins. And so almost to their benefit, take one of them out of the equation and the other one is going to have to. Or we're going to find out whether he's capable of it. If we redefined who Ben Simmons was, if we stopped calling him a point guard and looked at him through the prism of Kawhi Leonard or Giannis Antetokounmpo as a forward or a point forward, a forward with playmaking capabilities, this wouldn't be such a mystery. We wouldn't be looking at it because you look at Giannis and what he has in the center position, it's Brook Lopez. He can space the floor. You look at what Kawhi Leonard has. It's Ivica Zubac, who you're not going to play through offensively, right? He's there for defensive purposes primarily. That's what you have to do to get the best out of Ben Simmons. And Joel Embiid is not. And if you're going to do that, then you're not going to get the best out of Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you say. I don't think Embiid's where Brook Lopez is as a floor spacer. Now, because Brook has become a really good three-point shooter. If he were that, then they would fit. Because I think Ben can play like Giannis. But I'm with you for the most part in that they like Simmons or Embiid said it last week. The floor spacing is jacked up because to get somebody to guard Simmons, you have to put him down low in the fourth quarter especially. And then that forces Embiid out and takes him away from what he does best.
Right.
While he's a decent shooter, he can't be at the post. But I think this is perfect because to break them up already, let's say they broke them up last year, I think that would have been premature. Now, even to break them up at the deadline this year, I think would have been premature. You got the rest of the season, see what they do in the playoffs. Because they still, I would argue, have the most talent in the East. And if they can put it together, the fact that they play so well at home does tell you it's something there. And you're right, Rick, they don't have leadership.
Talent on paper.
Right. But hold on, they're 25-2 at home, and I know it's at home. But they've beat the top 4 teams in every conference or in each conference at home. And you're right, it's the lack of leadership and real camaraderie and chemistry in that locker room that makes them so bad on the road. However, the talent is there. Last night they started Furkan Korkmaz at the 3 instead of Al Horford. Now, he didn't play well. He was coming off 2 30-plus point games, didn't even score last night. But they started Glenn Robinson instead of him in the second half.
And Josh Richardson.
Right, and Josh Richardson. So space the floor more with the shooter instead of Al Horford, and they found some success. I'm with you in that. Look, if they have a disappointing postseason, I'm doing one of two things. I'm moving Embiid, because you can get a haul for him, I think. And I think Ben Simmons can be like a point center even, or a point forward, whatever you want to call him. Or I don't know who this coach is. Phil Jackson could have been the guy, but he's obviously not coming back to coaching. If you can find a coach who can maximize those two together and work their personalities together, has a scheme that might work, that would be the guy.
Who's the guy who invented the Rubik?
I was going to say, I don't know. Right. I don't know who that is.
I'm with Rick,
but make the trade then.
I'm with Rick that at this point, excuse me, I would be willing, after this postseason, to part these two and go find somebody.
What if it's what if they go out in 6 or 7 in the conference finals? I'm just asking.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd have to rethink that because of how they lost or whatever. What I'm saying.
But the other thing is they're locked up financially. Mm-hmm. Like, they've already invested in all the pieces. Are they going to get better? Al Horford's not going to get better. And are you going to count on, like, Josh Richardson knock down threes? That's the big issue, is that you have to have all these things around you to be perfect for them to be ideal. And I think it's asking too much. Look, it's a fair question. If you got to the conference finals, would you hold on to it? Would you?
And if they get knocked out in the first round, I think you would take a look and go, you know what?
I mean,
we got to break it up,
in
right?
Portland with Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum to an extent. They decided, we're not going to break it up. They get to the conference finals last year.
Right.
This year, they're on the outside looking into the playoffs. So maybe you give it one more chance, but that might not even work.
But here's the difference. We went through the whole process. We had the losing of 4 or 5 years. The promise for all of that was, but we're going to build a champion.
Yep.
Not a team that gets to the second round. You had that before the process started. Mm-hmm. A championship. If you look at the league and you look at this team, do you say, I see this team winning a championship at some point? If you don't, then I say you reshuffle the deck.
Which one would you give up? Trade?
I would give up Ben Simmons because I believe that Joel Embiid. Now, I talked to a number of GMs about this. If you're trying to win right now, you trade Ben Simmons. If you are playing the long game because of Joel Embiid's health and questions about his durability, you would go with Ben Simmons, and you're going to assume that he's going to develop a jump shot at some point in his life before he retires. I feel like Embiid is the problem with using him as Brook Lopez and just as a spacer is he can do so much more.
Yes.
You can play through him. He is a passer. He can play below the free throw line. I want to fully maximize who he is. Ben, because I've seen Markelle Fultz improve his jump shot. Lonzo Ball's a jump shooter. Giannis Antetokounmpo has a three-point shot. This, to me, is the great mystery in the NBA, is that Ben Simmons, after all these years, still does not have any semblance of a jump shot, never mind three-point range, a pull-up jump shot from 17, 18 feet.
Yeah, it's what we saw last night with the 76ers is what frustrates every Sixers fan. This is who they have the potential to be, but this is not what they are every single night, night in and night out. In part is because of the effort that these guys play with. You said something that stuck out to me about leadership and not identifying who and what that leadership looks like on that team. I think they thought Al Horford was going to be that guy that steps in and be able and be the leader and corral these guys and help guide them on how to win and how to be professionals. That hasn't happened. Right. And because that hasn't happened, you still see this up and down roller coaster of a team because they struggle with identity. Are we going to be a big team and play through Embiid, or are we going to be a run and gun team and let Ben Simmons just fast break it and get to the hole and then space the floor out? They don't know that. And so I think the answer is no, it's not premature. When it talks about, are we going to blow this team up, or should they? Yes, because it's not working on a night in and night out basis. They show flashes, and every team shows flashes at some point. But this team, the expectations, to your point, is championship.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen.
They have currently, right, matched the Knicks road record. Like, as bad as the Knicks team is, they have the same road record. That tells you that there's something not right in there.
Right. Your best players have to be your hardest workers.
The scary thing for Philadelphia, and I get it, and I'm with you guys, if it goes south this postseason, you break it up. But the scary thing is you're looking at it like, man, we got two great young players.
That's young
one's
players.
a playmaker, one's a big man.
Right.
You historically,
that should go together.
That would have been great in the NBA, but with this new NBA with the three-point shooting, it doesn't.
You can't be a point guard if you can't shoot the three. You just cannot be an elite point guard if you can't shoot the three, which is why I'm saying the first thing that we have to do is we have to redefine who Ben Simmons is. Then we can start to get to the heart
Rick,
of what this is.
He has to almost be a center.
What's that?
I
know, but he's got one way or another. Whatever label you put on it, he has to play below the free throw line. And if he plays below the free throw line, that means Joel Embiid cannot play below the free throw line.
It should be noted, Ben Simmons.
It's simple as that.
He can push it in transition.
Yes.
But when they're in the half court,
well, last night in the half court, he torched Morris, Kawhi, Paul George.
He can drive.
Talk a little bit about the
he can
one
penetrate.
dribble away from the basket.
Right.
He's amazing.
Yes.
Did you see that dipsy doodle shot he made?
The reverse, right?
He can score.
Yeah.
About the Clippers. We got a couple Clippers fanboys here who think they're better than the
goodness
Lakers.
gracious. Ain't nobody a
If
fan
the Lakers had lost last night to the
You
Sixers,
say that like it's...
I'm just joking around.
Right, like it's
What's the name of this show? Undisputed? That is undisputed.
Yes.
That is undisputed.
If the Lakers had lost like this last night, we would have, LeBron couldn't come through in the fourth. Anthony Davis was...
Don't try to lead. Just ask the question.
Right. Listen, it's one of those situations where Paul George was awful, 3 for 15. He's having the worst shooting year from the field in the last 5 years. Yeah, I'm loading up on not getting to the free throw line, one of the worst levels of his career.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on the Clippers heading into the All-Star break, now 4 games back of the Lakers?
I can't wait. This is what I love. This is what I love about the battle.
There, Rick.
No. The battle for who's going to be in first in the Western Conference. They're playing in the same building. I'm still going to sleep in my bed.
Right.
Oh, the colors are different. God, this feels.
You got 7 home games.
I'm so
Each team has 7 home games.
intimidated.
The Lakers will have 7 home.
The Lakers should be load managing because of that, and they're not. But at any rate,
No. Well,
your thoughts on the Clippers?
But that's the whole thing. It's exactly what you said. What we're seeing the Lakers do now, it's full system go. Like we're still seeing. I'm still watching the Clippers and I'm checking out various pieces and how they fit. We got Marcus Morris into the equation last night and knocking down some big shots. And yet within the rhythm, he wasn't taking anything away from anybody else. The issues with Paul George simply is you don't have a traditional point guard. And by the way, he's like changing systems now, again. Right. There's going to take a bit of acclimation for him. But and you also see why they made the deal for Marcus Morris, because size is an issue on a regular basis and a slowdown.
And he took on the big man last night, right? If you're Clippers, you love that, right?
The dog that they have, the personality that they have, the depth that they have.
We know this. We know that Marcus Morris is a goon. Go ahead.
Yeah.
He's not a goon.
He's a goon and shoots 44%.
He shoots. And in the playoffs as well.
He always gets in fights with LeBron, dating back to his Detroit day. Like this guy.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
Right. I want a guy that's going to challenge the best player.
Yes.
Yeah. No. I'm excited to see what the Clippers are going to be at the end of the year. It is so clear to me that Kawhi Leonard brought the same mindset that he had in Toronto, which is, we'll get through the regular season, we'll play well, we'll put the pieces together, but man, when we get to April, May, and June, that's when we're going to turn it up.
They did get a little lucky beating the Sixers on a fluky shot, and then Kevin Durant played 12 minutes in the finals. But
Rick, let me ask you this, because you can watch the Clippers, and it's impressive that they're where they are record-wise with guys in and out of the lineup, and they haven't had time to practice. It's not like they're going to have a ton of time before the playoffs to practice. So is there any concern that they're just not going to have the time to really get fully 100% in sync heading into the playoffs?
My greater concern is that how many games are they going to have where they play 48 minutes? Where they are all in and mentally focused for 48 minutes because of their depth, because of what they have. I see too many games already where they're playing like the Warriors, where it's like, we'll turn it up here and then we'll roll them over, right? And when you're the Warriors and you've already won a championship and you've already established, we know what it feels like to go through a 7-game series and to play 48 solid minutes every night. You've built up that endurance, that mental endurance, that physical endurance. That's my one question. Are they being a little too laissez-faire at this point?
Do they have a little bit? Can they take a little bit from last year when they pushed the Warriors and they won those games in Oakland? I'm saying the core group, so they never give up.
Strong.
Well, but they never give up is what I'm saying. Can they use some of that even though they have a couple of new stars?
Yeah, no. I'm not worried about the mentality as much as the synchronicity. So when we get into tough situations, what's our first option? Right. What's the first thing we're looking for? So that everybody knows this is the first thing we're going for, and this is the second thing.
That's the Paul George question right there.
And yes, and that order and that organization and that comfort of we got this. Because you see, this is why Toronto continues to be so good. Yeah. Because there's no situation that they can face right now that they haven't faced before that they know, we're going to go to this. Oh, Fred's got it. I know what we're going to do when Fred has it. Oh, we're going through Pascal. I know where I need to be and what we're going to do.
Remember last year, Lou Williams was the number 1 option in that series against the Warriors.
Yeah.
He's now what, number 3 maybe on the pecking order?
Yeah, that's probably
interesting.
You say that like that's a
good thing to have that guy as number 3.
Zion Williamson sure played inspired last night, dropping a career-high 31 on Portland. Zion also had 9 rebounds, 5 assists. And listen, folks, LeBron, KD, and Luka Doncic are the only other 19-year-olds ever to have a 31-9-5 game. Zion's averaging 21 and just under 8 boards through a whopping 9 games this year. As Rob Parker shakes his head, Rick, has Zion Williamson already established himself as a superstar in the NBA?
Who put him up to this?
Hey.
I know you guys did.
You know we didn't. You know we didn't.
Rick, teach.
I'm trying to educate these guys, Rick. Me and Greg are on one side, you're on the other.
Are we handing out the superstar tag like they hand out keychains at a trade show?
Yes. Apparently so.
Well,
that's what we do. This is 2020.
Yeah, welcome.
Superstar. He's not even an all-star yet.
Thank you.
He is, now, I will say this. He is exciting and fun to watch. He has shown some superstar-like qualities. But right now, he's an energy guy. That's what he is. He's an energy guy, and he's a dynamic energy guy because he's so athletic. But superstar is a guy who, first of all, what's the accomplishment at this point?
Nothing.
He's a celebrity.
Yes. He's
in this day and age with the internet, with the social media. That's right. That's what they are.
So, but for me, a superstar leads you to championships. He's the best player on your team. Zion Williamson is not the best player on this team. They don't play through him offensively. Defensively, he's not very good. He's kind of lost defensively. What surprises me is that as dynamic and athletic as he is, he's kind of a phone booth rebounder. I would have expected that he was going to be able to, that was one thing, he was going to put up huge numbers. Offensively, he can go get his own, and he can do some electric things, but man, Judge Judy, is Judge Judy a superstar? Because she's very popular.
So, Greg Jennings, let me read the definition of superstar. You'll take it.
Please do. Whose definition?
Superstar, the dictionary definition. Look it up.
Okay.
High profile and extremely successful. Greg Jennings.
He's high profile.
Take it away.
Look, Zion Williamson is a superstar. The question should really be, can he live up to the superstardom? And my answer is, right now with the sample size that we've seen, Rick, I get it. I get it. What has he done? Well, he's been effective. He's been very effective when he's been given the opportunity, when he's been given the minutes, and when he's been asked to be effective in these 9 games, as you're going to so eloquently allude to.
9 games, my goodness. Oh, my God.
Listen to what I'm saying. When you talk about a superstar, you're talking about a guy who was the number 1 overall pick. He has all this hype surrounding him. And everyone has this expectation of him and what they consider he could be or should be or will he be.
Yeah.
Right now, with what we're seeing, even last night, he is showcasing to us that, yes, I'm going to live up to the hype. I get it, it's 9 games, but...
What was that? What was that? Going to. Did you say? You said going to. He's going to live up to the hype.
Yes, meaning he is in it. He's going to live up to the hype.
He's doing that now.
He's living it.
Rick, the number.
I'm going
to have some bacon after the show. I'm not in bacon right now.
Rick, you look like you already had the bacon.
Rick, first 9 games.
Yes.
Last 30 years, nobody else in NBA history has scored 20 or more in 7
why don't we go to 30 years?
You're asking for numbers.
Like he said something. Like you just
You're
said something.
asking for numbers.
But
I'm giving you the numbers.
why are they those numbers?
it.
Because
Stop
when they
it.
went back, they had to figure out like a number
He's on
that
a
worked so that
minutes
they could put him in
Rob
there.
Parker, a minutes restriction coming off an injury. He's
I
scratching
just
the
think
surface.
it's premature, and this is the life that we live in. We want to crown people right away because they were
No,
the
we're
first
not
overall
crowning anybody
pick,
but Zion Williamson.
or because he's on the social media and everybody knows who he is because he played at Duke. He's a fine player. He's not a superstar.
Okay,
Rick's definition is perfect. That's the real definition of a superstar.
Which part?
Is Ja Morant a superstar?
Trae Young is not a superstar.
Is Luka Doncic a
Luka Doncic is a superstar, yes.
I could argue, and I agree, Trae Young is not a superstar yet. But there's more evidence to back up Trae Young being a superstar than Zion Williamson. Trae Young is starting in the All-Star game because of all the fans voting for him.
Right.
Trae Young is putting up I bet I can look up some numbers. How many players have averaged 30 and 9 in their
10-win
second
team, right?
year? Zion's played 9 games and are 5 and 4.
They're the 10th seed right now. I'll tell you right now, you know this, Greg.
Congratulations.
Nobody wants to see Zion Williamson in the first round after he's got 30 games under his
I'm
belt.
sure the Lakers are just
I don't think they're scared.
That the Pelicans
that is a dynamic player who can take over games right now. Already.
Wait a minute. He hasn't taken over a game yet.
Because he's not played 9 games. He's on a minutes restriction, Rick.
Okay, so with all of that, I think Chris made a great point. If we're just going superstardom because you are popular, because everybody wants to see you succeed, Trae Young is a superstar. Without question, he's a superstar. And I'm sorry, you're saying Ja Morant is not a...
He's going to be the Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year. He's not a superstar, but Zion Williamson is?
I know it doesn't sound logical. He could be the Rookie of the Year.
Because it's not logical.
Say it again. There's
not
a difference.
logical.
Superstar, high profile, extremely successful.
When you put that dictionary down,
tell America
this is
you don't
sports.
believe in dictionaries.
That's talking about TV stars, actors, actresses, all sports.
This
the
is
English
you
language,
surprise
Chris.
me, Greg. You surprise me the most because
we expect that from
yes, because
forward-thinking
because you know how hard it is to
do.
achieve different various status levels in the game.
And to keep it
And
going.
I would think that you wouldn't give that out so quickly because there are guys I'm sure you played with who had like 3 or 4 amazing games.
But he has to earn
Games.
it.
And you didn't say, oh, that dude's a superstar.
Odell Beckham Jr. had a few.
Some talent, you can identify it right away.
Yes.
And I think we can't just say, oh, he's not a superstar because he hasn't had the opportunity to showcase it on a big, large scale or sample size. What he's doing, he's a superstar. To come in with all the hype, to be number one overall pick, to have a team pretty much say, we're looking for him, we can't wait to start. The league shifted everything as far as watching, just so we can watch.
So is Trae Young a superstar?
I'm not saying Trae Young is a superstar.
Why not? He's got all of that.
Good player.
Why not, Greg? Why not?
I will say this.
He's in the All-Star game. By popular vote.
Listen to me. I will take this from Rick. And I will gladly take it from Chris. But from you, Rob, I can't take it.
He's flopping like a politician. That's
because Pat Mahomes is not a superstar. Lamar Jackson is not a superstar.
I did not say that.
Yes,
they want Pat Mahomes to be the GOAT.
Nobody said GOAT.
He's en route.
He ain't no GOAT.
Let's redefine it.
They want him to be the GOAT.
Patrick Mahomes is a superstar.
Thank you.
No, but he is. He a GOAT?
He's a superstar.
We're just saying he's potentially
How many superstars do you have in the NBA currently? Because if you're just saying championships, which you said earlier, does that mean Giannis is not a superstar with an MVP award?
No, I could say Giannis is a superstar.
Okay.
He's leading his team to that.
Wait,
I think
you had to think about that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think Rick is. I agree with his premise. I don't say you got to win a championship.
But you should be leading your team there.
You cannot be a superstar in the NBA without consistently leading your team to the playoffs.
Again.
There's no way.
Yeah, here's the thing. Guys will always get their numbers. For me, a superstar gets everybody else numbers. He makes the game easier for everybody else. And that was the only thing that that gave me pause with Giannis, because he's a great dynamic player. And in various ways, he makes them go. But you've seen how they play when you take him out of the equation. They're still very good. Mm-hmm. And I need to see him do that in the postseason when it becomes, we're going to game plan to stop you. And you've got to be able to adjust your game. We're not looking, this is what always bothers me, and we're going to hear it if they don't make it, we're going to hear it about Giannis. Oh, they would get somebody. Chris Middleton can't be the second best guy on the team. LeBron James in Cleveland, if they'd only get him help. And then he goes to Miami and he learns how to win a championship. He learns how to make other guys better. And now suddenly it's different, and you can do it with almost anybody.
I want to piggyback on something else you said about Zion, because, look, I think he's going to put up, if he stays healthy, he's going to be like a 25-11 guy. And I love the fact that he doesn't dominate the ball, and you don't have to really run plays for him, other than, they get it to him in the post.
Right.
But I think that makes him be able to fit with other guys perfectly because he doesn't have to dominate the ball. However, when we talk about the superstars, Giannis, LeBron, Kawhi, Steph Curry, James Harden, they are guys that when all else fails, you can give it to them on the perimeter and they can create something off the dribble without even dominating the ball, but they can create their own shot. I don't see that yet in Zion yet.
No.
Will he ever be that guy? So he may be a guy that's 25-11, making the All-Star every year, and a legitimate star, but not the number one guy. Anthony Davis, I don't think is a number one guy. He's 1A because he can't do what the other guys I just mentioned can do.
So is Anthony Davis not a superstar?
I would call him a superstar. I would call him that, but
Anthony Davis is
I would
not
call
a
him a superstar.
No, because he does not fit the definition of making other guys better.
Your definition.
My definition.
Okay.
Yes.
But he doesn't fit you guys, though. Your definition is celebrity popularity. AD doesn't have that.
Steve Nash, a superstar. He made everybody else better.
He was a superstar.
But Anthony Davis, not a superstar.
That's not even. You say that as if it's extraordinary that we would say Steve Nash, who was a two-time MVP,
he was a superstar
and was the catalyst of this team. That we would look at him as a superstar and Anthony Davis not a superstar.
Well, you're saying Anthony Davis not a superstar.
And Greg, you know what?
But that's not even. That's not hard for me
It's also unfair to big guys because big guys don't always, as you said,
nowadays they
make
do.
everybody better.
Nowadays they do.
Joel Embiid, where's he? Superstar?
Not yet.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
I think he has superstar-like qualities.
And Greg said he's not going to take it from me or whatever, but at the control room.
Well, that stuck with you, didn't it?
He got them to give him some.
Here we go. Yeah. Somebody's in his ear.
I just want them to play the video of when you told everybody how great Kwame Brown was going to be because he was the first overall pick.
What?
Stop it. Stop
yeah, that's
it, Rob.
silly. I really
you
like
get you get an A for effort on
All right,
that.
I tried.
But your whole idea of guys have to win, James Harden Harden, he hasn't
won anything.
But he wins at a high level. He hasn't won a championship. I don't think you have to win a championship to be a superstar.
To lead your
team.
team.
You have to be in the hunt and consistently.
All right, last one. Russell Westbrook. Does he make anybody better? Has he won anything? Is he a superstar?
He's been to the I think Russell Westbrook's a superstar. My definition is not as stringent as Rick's. I think AD is a superstar.
That's the issue.
Closer to
but I don't think Zion.
Is Russell
Rick
Westbrook
Bucher. Good stuff. Thank you, Rick.
No mercy.
Patrick Mahomes has taken the league by storm, becoming the youngest player ever to win a regular season and Super Bowl MVP. When asked if he viewed himself as the new face of the NFL, Mahomes gave credit to Lamar Jackson being on the same level after being this season's unanimous MVP. Mahomes is only 24. Lamar, he's only 23. So we can expect a lot of exciting matchups down the road between the two. Former NFL quarterback and Super Bowl champ Steve Beuerlein is joining us. Steve, is Mahomes Lamar the next Brady Manning rivalry in the AFC?
Well, we all sure hope so, I think. It'd be great if it got to that point. But there's a lot of things that have to happen before we can start billing these guys at that level. I mean, they've only had, how many games have they played against each other? 2, I think, so far in their career, and they're both 2 years into it as a starting quarterback. I think there's a lot of things that have to happen still, but truly I think the potential is there for a huge rivalry. We already know what Patrick Mahomes is going to do. If he stays healthy, he's going to rewrite every record that's out there. I mean, if he stays healthy and that team continues to have the weapons that he's got around him, he's going to rewrite everything. And we know what he can do. He's won the big games. He's shown he's got the ability to step up and play at the highest level at the biggest moments. Lamar Jackson, he burst onto the scene this year. There's a lot more questions, I think, about Lamar Jackson when you look at what he's going to do long term. And number one is just how long can he play the way that he's playing? How long is his body going to hold up and allow him to play at that level? Now, what he did this year, we've never seen out of a quarterback before, running the football the way he did, and his development from year 1 to year 2 as a passer, astronomical. And I think he'll continue to work and develop that way because we know his work ethic is at a very high level. He's extremely competitive. He's going to push himself to prove everybody that doubts him wrong. And he's going to do the things he's got to do to continue to develop. Now, the question is whether his body's going to allow him to have that 10, 12, 14-year career playing the way that he does play. If you want to talk about some comparisons, let's talk about Colin Kaepernick, Cam Newton, guys like that were runners, the athletic quarterbacks that ran the football and were asked to run the football, but their bodies were not able to hold up over time, or they didn't develop as a passer over time. Forget about all the other stuff with Cam Newton and with Colin Kaepernick especially. Look at what happened after he made his run to the Super Bowl. The 12-4 year when he was in 2013, they were 12-4. You know what his records were the next few years? 8-8 in 2014. 2-6 in 2015, 1-10 in 2016, because he didn't evolve and develop as a quarterback. He didn't continue to get better. Defenses figured out how to take away the things he was comfortable with. Can Lamar Jackson continue to stay ahead of that curve? Guess who the offensive coordinator was for both of those quarterbacks? Greg Roman.
Right.
Colin Kaepernick and Lamar Jackson. So Greg Roman, challenges on him too as well. If he stays with Lamar Jackson, how can they stay ahead of the curve and keep him developing and evolving as a quarterback? And really, more importantly, I think as he gets up into his career, he's got to continue to develop as a passer, which I think he will. Again, year 1 to year 2, astronomical. So I think the sky's the limit for him. If his body holds up, these two guys have shown the ability to be able to turn it up and play at a high level in the big games. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, Steve, I agree with you. Look, Mahomes, we already know he's in this. Like, he is, assuming he stays healthy, there are no other questions about him. What he does is sustainable. There's no doubt, and he's got Andy Reid, the great coach. He's got Tyreek Hill. He's got Travis Kelce. He's got, Damian Williams. He's got, McCole Hardman for the next few years. So he's going to be in this discussion. Who's going to be the other guy? I think Lamar is the best choice at this point. My only question is sustainability. It's not, because we've seen Mahomes win in the playoffs, obviously. We haven't seen Lamar do it. The two good teams he's faced that have seen him twice. I know he saw Cincinnati twice. They're not good. He saw the Browns twice last year. They're not good. Pittsburgh was, injury riddled and all that stuff. The two teams he saw twice that were good, the Chargers 2 years ago and last year the Titans, they bottled him up early. And I know he had big numbers against the Titans and he played okay. Right. I mean, his problem is if they get down in a playoff game, now you got to change everything and he has to become a passer. I agree with you in that this summer is huge for him because if he makes the same type of leap or even 2/3 the leap that he made last year in the offseason, that's what's necessary because as time goes on, Cam Newton you mentioned. Cam Newton is twice as big as Lamar Jackson.
Right.
And he couldn't take the consistent hits, and it broke his body down. Over time, I think Lamar is, as he slows down, as he takes more hits, he's going to become more of a passing quarterback. And if he can do that well, then this can be Brady Manning.
Yeah, no, I don't think this will be Brady Manning, but it like you said, it has the potential to be, but it's not going to be. These guys matched up 17 times, like 5 times in the postseason, 3 or 4 times in the AFC Championship game. Like, they were the elite of the elite. Like, they literally led their teams, and it was all about them. When I look at these guys, their styles are completely different. Pat Mahomes is very similar. He's kind of a combination of both quarterbacks, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. But you mentioned something that I mentioned earlier, Greg Roman. When it comes to the style of play that Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens play, it fits tremendously well for the regular season. Can they change and turn that up a notch in the postseason? And then you look at the skill guys that he has around him versus Pat Mahomes.
No comparison.
Right. No comparison. You're talking about a guy who has arguably his threats are, his 2 biggest targets are his 2 tight ends. And then you have a receiver who is a smaller guy who's been in and out of the lineup, so he doesn't have as many weapons in the arsenal that Pat Mahomes has. And then outside of these 2 quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson.
That's what I was going to ask you, Steve. Can he be in the conversation, Deshaun Watson, who people have seemed to poo-poo despite some of the numbers, and we've seen him be spectacular.
We have seen him be, and I'm a huge, Deshaun Watson fan too. I mean, the guy, I've had him as my fantasy quarterback the last couple of years because I love that guy. I mean, and he's proven himself in the big games too. And his combination of running and passing the football, he's a thrower.
Yes.
I mean, he can sling it, and there's no doubt. Now, he's way ahead of Lamar Jackson in terms of his pocket ability as a passing quarterback. So you have to put Deshaun in that category too. You got to put Russell Wilson in that category too, with what Russell can do as a quarterback. And Russell, he doesn't take a lot of hits, so he's still going to be. He's got another, at least 7 or 8 years left, you would think as well.
Yeah, Steve, I want to ask you the sustainability of Lamar. We saw 3 pocket quarterbacks this year get injured, kind of maybe fluky. Drew Brees, Nick Foles, who won a Super Bowl, and Ben Roethlisberger, all just hit in the pocket. Lamar, I know he's a running quarterback, but do you really feel he takes a lot of hits? Because to me, it's like he's more Russell Wilson. Elusive, knows when to slide, unlike, say, an RG3.
Well, when you talk about you mentioned Brees and Roethlisberger, those are 2 pocket guys that are older up in their career. And they've had, they've had the cumulative effect of a long career as well. There's no doubt, standing in the pocket, that's the kind of quarterback I was. I got the crap beat out of me for a lot of years. But
You're still standing,
I'm still, as far as you know, it looks like I got 2 new hips and a few other issues, but I'm doing okay. But the bottom line is everybody's different. I mean, we saw Patrick Mahomes dislocate his knee this year, his kneecap, just on a fluky play on a quarterback sneak. Durability is the question with all these guys. As you said, we had a body of work of how many games between Brady and Manning? I mean, it was
17.
17 meetings between those 2 guys. It's going to define itself over time. The question is going to be whether Lamar can continue to develop as a passing quarterback and whether they put weapons around him. Patrick Mahomes, by the way, makes everybody on his team better.
Right.
Because he's got the special qualities as a pocket passer who can also break a defense down with his feet, but also especially in extending plays. And when he gets outside of that pocket, he's not looking for a completion or to get a first down. He's looking to throw the dagger. He's looking to end it right there, one play. And there are very few quarterbacks that have that ability, so he's very unique.
Doesn't running, and look, I got to admit, I've been surprised that Lamar was fully healthy through this year. Because
Yeah.
I didn't think a guy could run that much and survive. But it does put you at a greater risk, doesn't
No
it?
doubt.
I mean, running the football like that.
And he
took
always
some shots. He did take a few big shots.
He took a few, but he's really good at avoiding the hits. So he's really smart and doesn't take a lot of big hits. But as we all know, there still is a cumulative effect. If you're asking him to run the ball 15 to 20 times a game, all the cutting on his knees and on his ankles and the breaking down and trying to make the moves that he makes, bodies falling on top of him, getting yourself in awkward positions. As you age, those things start to take a toll. So you have to evolve. He's not going to be able to run the ball when he's 30 years old the way he's running the ball right now. It's just you can't ask him to do that if you want him to be your quarterback long term.
No mercy. The New York Knicks are cleaning house yet again with longtime exec Steve Mills, the latest front office member to be sent packing. But now a report from the New York Post says that the Knicks may be looking to their past for a solution. According to, quote, sources, New York is interested in bringing back Jeff Van Gundy or his former assistant, Tom Thibodeau, who also had stints as the head man with the Bulls and Timberwolves. Van Gundy already kind of dismissed the rumor this morning on the radio. Chris, my Knicks are a disaster. Do you think they should go after Van Gundy?
Or Thibodeau, you mean?
Or Thibodeau.
Look, both Jeff and Tom are great basketball guys. They both know the game, very well. I covered Jeff when he coached the Knicks before, and he was a very good coach, got them to the NBA Finals. But look, he's been away from the game 10 years, and I know he's coaching some of the Team USA international groups. But when I look at Jeff and more so Thibodeau, because there's a track record there, the game has changed now. There was a time when I thought Tom Thibodeau was one of the top 3 coaches in the NBA. When he coached Chicago, and their only star was Derrick Rose, and they made the playoffs all 5 of the seasons he was there, and twice they had the best defense in the league. 2 of the other years, they were top 6 defensively in the league. So he was a defensive coach. He goes to Minnesota, and they are horrible defensively for his entire tenure there. They're 27th, 25th, and 24th in the league defensively with a great defensive coach. What that tells me, and I know you can blame Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, they weren't defensive-minded guys. Thibodeau could make anybody a defensive-minded guy when he coached it. And I know they understand how the game's changed, but when Tibbs and Jeff were great defensive coaches, it was pack in the paint and force the teams to shoot the three-pointer and not get shots in the paint. Well, that doesn't work nowadays, and I'm not saying Tibbs, right, they want that. I'm not saying Tibbs didn't try to adjust in Minnesota, but obviously it wasn't successful. If they're looking at I don't think you necessarily have to go back in time in New York to get you a new coach. But if you're looking at a guy with former Knicks ties, it should be Mark Jackson. And I believe Mark has been blackballed throughout the league, but New York is one place that would definitely accept him. The fans would love him because he was a former player there. He's from New York. And they would give him time, which I think is more important. You look at what he did in Golden State. He was huge for them. I know he didn't get him over the hump like Kerr did, but defensively he created a mindset, and offensively he gave Steph and Klay the confidence, the swagger to believe they could be as great as they became. And so I think Mark Jackson for a young team will be a great guy in New York, but I wouldn't personally go with Jeff or Tom.
Yeah, for me, New York is one of those teams right now where they don't know who they are. They don't know what they want to do. They remind me very, very much so of the Cleveland Browns in the National Football League. Oof. Like, you're flip-flopping coaches. Your owner doesn't really know what they want to do. They're at odds with fans and whatever. But to your point, the game has moved beyond these 2 individuals, Jeff Van Gundy and Tibbs. I live in Minnesota. So I had the opportunity to watch Tibbs up close in person, and it just didn't work. It didn't work because of exactly what you're talking about, the unwillingness to evolve. And when you have that, you can't really be a special coach in leagues you have to evolve. You have to adapt to where the game is and where your players are. And you have to be able to relate. And that's what the Knicks need. I don't know who that coach is specifically. I would love to see Mark Jackson get that opportunity for all the reasons you mentioned. The New York ties, both growing up there and playing there. And then he still understands the game, and I think he can relate to players. But I don't know what the answer is for the Knicks. I don't know if there is a perfect answer for the Knicks, specifically with Daryl Morey still in control.
I know what the answer.
James Dolan.
James Dolan.
I'm sorry.
I know what isn't the answer, and when I hear Van Gundy and Tibbs, I'm thinking this is a bad rerun episode of Welcome Back, Kotter. You know, like seriously, like why are we going there? You know what I mean? Like this is not what the Knicks need. This is like comfort food. Do you know what I mean? You're like, yeah, where's my mac and cheese? I know what that tastes like, and I can eat this. No, this is why this hasn't worked out for all these years, Chris. You know this. Jeff Van Gundy, when I covered the Knicks, and we both did, Jeff Van Gundy was the assistant coach. I know Jeff forever, for 25 years. I covered Mark Jackson. You brought up Mark Jackson. In college, when he played at St. John's, that's how long I've been around. So I'm with you. I would rather see something like that than to go backwards with these two guys who have been out of it or didn't have the success when he got his second chance. Not a third time. Is Larry Brown not available if you're going that
He's
route?
He's like 80. Rob, it's not just the coaching situation. 6 coaches in 7 years. It's the owner. It starts with Dolan.
We know it's the owner.
Nobody wants to play for him. We know that. Kevin Durant kind of said a lot of negative stuff.
Did you see what they did to Charles Oakley?
Listen, they do that to Oakley. I mean, it's an embarrassment for 2 decades now. Seriously, since Patrick Ewing left, this team has been a dumpster fire. Total disaster. I don't know what the answer is. It certainly isn't, gutting the front office and trying to bring in all these outsiders. If you're asking me, as a Knicks fan for 2 decades, I still wear my Patrick Ewing jersey to coach my kids' basketball games. I do that. I honestly would go to the Golden State Warriors and pluck somebody from their front office. They were very forward-thinking over the last 5 or 6 years. Bring in a young guy, totally change the culture, and try something new.
But this is what happens to teams when you lose over and over and over again, and you're such a storied franchise. Like, you look at the Washington Redskins. I remember them going back to Joe Gibbs.
Look at where they are now.
Look at where they are. They still haven't been able to find that guy that can get them over the hump and get them into the winning ways. The Knicks are going right down that road.
How about the Detroit Lions? You know, that's your hometown team, right?
Like, these teams, they just have a cult. They need to shift in the culture and their thinking moving forward.
One thing I'll say is this, and obviously Steve Mills was, fired as the president, and you got Scott Perry there. One thing they did do, and I know the team is a mess right now, but they've put them in position at least where, like, they got 1- and 2-year deals. So they have a lot of cap room. You got some young players. They got like 7 draft picks over the next few years. They got a lot of draft picks. So if somebody can come in and get the players there. Like, they got the room to go get free agents. They can change the image. But they brought in a business brand consultant.
But wasn't that Chris Dale?
By the way,
wasn't that Chris?
There's nobody good in free agency available this year. There's nobody.
But that's what they should wait till next year. Don't spend the money now and waste it up.
Who are
you getting now?
I thought that's why they brought Frisdale in, and he couldn't get any players to come. Remember, he's a real popular coach. True. Right? Nobody came.
No mercy. Carolina Panthers owner David Tepper had a lukewarm response when asked about the possibility of Cam Newton returning to the Panthers next year. Tepper told reporters, "I'm not a doctor. I've said it a million times. Is he healthy? There's a lot of different things that could happen. But first, is he healthy? Tell me that, and then we could talk." Oh, boy. Greg Jennings, what's he really saying here about Cam Newton?
He's saying Cam Newton is out. I mean, they're rebuilding. You hire a new coach. Things are looking different in Carolina. And Cam Newton has been injured. He is coming off an injury. It's a couple different injuries, and he's getting older in age. And he consumes a large part of the cap. Now, they're not in trouble when you're talking about cap space, but they could use it when you're rebuilding. And I just think that you move on from Cam, he can thrive somewhere else. He has a lot of football left in him. And it might be best for Carolina as well as Cam Newton.
Shame on the Carolina owner who basically treated Cam Newton like a fig Newton that dropped on the floor. I mean, like, seriously. Well, it's about health. Everything is about health. That shouldn't be. Obviously, he has to be healthy in order to play. That's not the comment that you make. We want him back, or no, we don't want him back. What about the health issue? Chris, I just thought that was like him sidestepping it instead of being direct and being honest with a guy.
You want him to just say it's over, Cam? We're done with you?
Yes, because that's what he said without saying it, Greg.
That's what he's saying.
Here's how I look at it. If I'm the Carolina Panthers, I get it. I'm leaning toward moving on. But Cam Newton only makes $20 million this year. That's not a ton, relatively speaking, okay? I've got a new staff, and we're starting all over. And Cam, I'm with you, Greg. If he's healthy, he can go to somewhere. We've talked about he could go to Chicago. He could go somewhere else.
Bears, I'd look at him.
Several teams, I can say, go get Cam and he can thrive. So if I'm Carolina, he's only making $20 million a year. I don't know who my heir apparent is. If I don't get that young prospect at QB, I'll put him in there and see what he does this year.
I like what you said, Chris. Young prospect. This is not difficult. I agree. Move on from Cam Newton. You don't want to say the word tank, but you move on this year. You say, hey, if we're 3-13, who cares? Trevor Lawrence coming out of Clemson, maybe Justin Hurts, kid out of Ohio. Jalen, the kid from Ohio State. Justin Fields. One of those two quarterbacks, Matt Rule, new coach. I love it for Carolina. That's a bright upside.
Yeah, it's a bright upside, but you're talking about who's been arguably the face of the Carolina Panthers for years, and not giving him the fair shake of at least
respect.
The respect.
Hey, nothing lasts forever, Greg. All right, that's it for us. We're back tomorrow, I think, at 9:30 Eastern.
No mercy. Thanks for listening to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm Jenny Taft. Join us again at the same time tomorrow morning, 9:30 Eastern. We'll see you then.
Fox Sports, one of one.